Alright folks, welcome back to my video series on building the Bearhawk 5. This video is about fabricating and installing reinforcement brackets for the aircraft door sills. The first step was cutting the brackets out of 050 aluminum on the bandsaw. We used the bench sander to shape the brackets to their final size and clean up the edges. Once we were happy with the brackets, we took them over to the sheet metal brake and bent 90-degree angles for the brackets used on the pilot and co-pilot doors forward and aft sill. The reinforcement brackets must be installed before final assembly. The brackets are a required item that adds strength and rigidity to the door sills. The exact size and location of the bracket is left up to the builder. We decided to make them as wide as possible without them chinning against the 4130 tabs welded to the frame. We left a small gap in between the brackets and the tabs in order to prevent any issue with metal fatigue due to vibrations in the future. As with everything else, we removed the formers, deburred all of the holes before final assembly. A flat bracket will need to be fabricated and installed behind the aft door sill. We used the same process to fabricate these brackets and made them approximately 2 by 3.5 inches. We match drilled the bottom 2 holes of the bracket with the existing holes from the aft door sill brackets we had just attached. We then upsized all the holes to a number 30 in preparation for a 1/8 inch rivet. Be careful when installing these brackets to make sure to leave room for the fuel lines to pass between the formers and the frame. The forward section of the cargo door needs to be reinforced as well. The process here was a little bit different. We fabricated a bracket that was 1 inch by 3.5 inches and that sat in between the cargo door former and the bottom section of the forward door former. In order for this bracket to fit, we had to cut out a section of the aluminum former. We clamped everything in place and drilled a number 40 pilot hole between the formers and the new bracket. Upsized and match drilled all the holes to a final size of number 30. We finished up by deburring all the holes and then clecoing everything back in place, awaiting final assembly. The kit comes with standoffs welded in place for the door formers to rest on. On our kit, we needed to shim the standoff in order to close the gap between the former and the flat plate in order for the door sills to sit level on the fuselage. We created an oversized plate and attached it with clecos. It will eventually be riveted in place prior to covering the aircraft with fabric. It's worth noting that only the co-pilot door standoff needed to be shimmed. The standoff on the pilot side door was plumb and level with the former already. The final door sill brackets that need to be fabricated were the forward brackets on the pilot and co-pilot doors. As you can see from the video, there's very little room between the edge of the former and the 4130 tab that holds the former in place. You will need to grind down part of the tab in order to make room for a large enough bracket to rest on the former. We made several attempts to create a bracket without grinding down the tab. Each attempt ended poorly for us. Perhaps if we had thicker aluminum, a smaller bracket would have been acceptable, but using 050 aluminum, you really need that extra space you get from grinding down part of the tab in order to create a bracket strong enough to support the former. Creating the door sill brackets was a fairly easy and straightforward task. Before starting the project, I was a little bit unsure of the necessity of these brackets, but once they've been installed, it's quite obvious that they're needed. The door sills are much stronger with the new brackets, and the doors will greatly benefit from the extra rigidity.